Hey guys, tonight we embark on a journey that blurs the boundary between science and dreams, a voyage into the shimmering depths of quantum soup and the sparks of our innermost desires. In this opening segment, we find ourselves cradled by the gentle hum of unseen forces that ripple through the fabric of reality. As we dip into the electric currents of a universe where thoughts flicker like bioluminescent creatures in the dark, allow your mind to wander along the nebulous edge of possibility. Picture the faint glow of these sparkles as they float around us, each one representing an idea, a hope, an intention that might one day shape your experience of money, happiness, and opportunity. And if you think that this surreal voyage might be too intense, remember, you probably won't survive this level of wonder without a little bit of cosmic courage. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I invite you to share your location and local time in the comments as we all connect in this shared moment of exploration across different corners of the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. We begin our narrative in the mysterious realm where quantum particles dance to rhythms we can barely imagine. Here, the mundane laws of everyday life give way to phenomena that challenge even our wildest fantasies. Imagine an ocean of energy, particles and waves interlaced, vibrating in a cosmic symphony that has been playing since time immemorial. In this quantum soup, every ripple and shimmer is a reminder that our thoughts, our intentions, might just be tapping into something vast and powerful. This is the stage upon which our manifesting dreams take form, where the minuscule and the infinite merge in a spectacular display of natural magic. As you listen, allow the gentle cadence of my voice to guide you deeper into this world, where the boundaries between objective reality and the potential of inner dreams dissolve. Picture yourself drifting weightlessly, surrounded by a cascade of light particles, tiny, glowing witnesses to the raw power of possibility. In this delicate interplay, science and mysticism do not clash. Instead, they form a harmonious duet that sings of the profound interconnection between your inner universe and the vast cosmos beyond. Every spark, every luminous flit of energy whispers a promise that within you, the power to shape a dream life is not merely a fantasy, but a quantum reality waiting to be embraced. Here, in the soft, indeterminate glow of fundamental forces, ideas are born and travel through the fabric of space-time like streams of radiant matter. The nature of these interactions, elusive yet ever-present, offers a tantalizing glimpse into how our intentions, those seemingly ephemeral bursts of thought, could interface with the physical world. The glow that dances on the horizon of your consciousness is as real as the very atoms that compose your being. Let yourself be enveloped in this vision, where every glimmer is a reminder that you, too, are part of this intricate cosmic dance, woven into the grand tapestry by threads of light and probability. As we drift along these currents of energy and vision, let the rhythmic pulse of the universe lull you into a contemplative state. Imagine an ethereal sea, teeming with the mysteries of existence, where each wave carries the potential for profound transformation. The stars above seem to wink knowingly at the secret interplay between inner dreams and outer realities, as if they have long recognized the power that resides within every living being. In this space, the boundaries that separate the conscious from the subconscious blur, inviting you to explore the quiet corners of your mind where dreams take root and possibilities blossom. Beneath the surface of this luminescent ocean, the science of manifesting reveals itself as a delicate interplay between energy, emotion, and intention, a dance choreographed by the very atoms of existence. The quantum realm does not simply mirror our innermost wishes. It fuels them with a dynamic force that vibrates throughout the cosmos. In the soft sway of this cosmic undercurrent, you may sense that every thought you harbor has the potential to ripple outward, touching distant galaxies, echoing through the void, and ultimately returning to you as a tangible slice of reality. The interplay between observation and existence, where watching seems to be as transformative as the act itself, invites you to consider that nothing in this universe is as fixed as it appears. Each moment is an opportunity to reconfigure the cosmic mosaic, to infuse the fabric of reality with the hues of your own making. In this luminous twilight between what is known and what might be, your dreams are not idle fantasies but active blueprints for a future only you can design. Let this realization settle in like a gentle weight, a calming assurance that the universe is brimming with the energy to give life to even your wildest aspirations. The shimmering dance of particles, the ebbs and flows of energy in this vast, dark expanse, all form the silent heralds of transformation. Here, every flicker is an invitation to explore, every ripple a call to awaken to the possibilities that await. It is in these delicate moments of convergence between science and soul that we discover the true magic of manifesting, a magic that emanates from within and resonates through every fiber of the cosmos. Allow this luminous vision to inspire you, to remind you that even in the darkest places, the light of possibility endures. Drifting deeper now, the light from the surface fades into the background like a forgotten song. We glide slowly beneath the waves of waking consciousness, toward a quieter, dimmer zone, the domain of the brain's unseen rhythms. Here, thoughts take on shapes, emotions become textures, and belief becomes architecture. You may not feel it in your daily rush of to-do lists and casual scrolling, but inside your skull, a symphony of electricity is playing. This isn't just poetic metaphor. It's the literal hum of your brain. And like the deep pulses of sonar in the sea, these waves are patterned, layered, and telling a story about what you expect from life. Your brain emits waves in different frequencies. Beta for your normal alert state, alpha when you're relaxed, theta in light dreams and deep imagination, and delta in the deepest corners of sleep. But perhaps most intriguing is the borderline state, right before you fall asleep or just as you're waking. That's where manifesting becomes potent. Your critical, judging mind fades. The subconscious opens like a deep sea flower blooming in still water. Now imagine this, a single thought, visual of a future you'd love to live. That thought, paired with deep emotion, sends a ripple across your brain's electromagnetic field. The stronger the emotion, the stronger the ripple. And over time, those ripples create patterns, grooves in your subconscious terrain. Like currents carving canyons in the ocean floor, your thoughts and feelings begin to shape what your brain believes is real, and what it begins to seek out or ignore. This isn't just spiritual optimism, it's neurological mechanics. The reticular activating system, a tiny bundle of nerves at the base of your brain, filters reality for you. Out of the millions of bits of data your senses absorb every moment, your brain lets in only a few thousand. And how does it decide? By looking at what you believe is important, what you expect, what you dwell on. So if your belief deep in your bones is that life is hard, that wealth belongs to others, that opportunities never come to you, your brain listens. It tunes its filters accordingly. You'll miss the open doors. You won't see the lucky breaks. And even when something good does arrive, it might feel suspicious, undeserved, or even threatening. But shift that belief gently over time, and your world shifts with it. Imagine repeating a quiet mantra, "Good things flow to me," not as wishful thinking, but as a gentle reshaping of your filter. Not forcing belief, but inviting it, like luring a shy fish from its cave with flickering light. You're not lying to yourself. You're changing the input. And slowly, the brain begins to recalibrate. Let's drift now into the emotional undercurrents. Emotions in this realm act like magnetic fields. They pull similar experiences toward you, not through magic, but through focus, posture, tone, even the way you interpret a stranger's glance. Emotionally tuned brains notice different things. A person vibrating with scarcity anxiety might hear a casual comment as criticism. Someone in a state of quiet confidence might interpret the same comment as encouragement. Reality didn't change. Only the lens did. And belief, layered with emotion, is the language of the subconscious. This is why daydreaming with feeling, really feeling, is powerful. That imagined version of you, smiling while checking your bank account, waking up rested in your dream home, laughing freely with friends under string lights. When you feel that moment fully, your brain begins to file it under familiar. Not just fantasy, not fiction. Familiar. The inner critic, the cautious gatekeeper of realistic expectations, grows quieter with repetition. It lets the dream settle into the nervous system like sediment forming new ground beneath you. Some researchers even believe that mental rehearsal, vivid, emotional visualization, can stimulate the same neural pathways as actual experience. Olympic athletes use this. So do successful entrepreneurs, artists, and even surgeons. The brain doesn't draw a hard line between what's imagined and what's real, if the emotion is strong enough. That's not to say you can think your way into a mansion with zero effort. But you can think your way into becoming the kind of person who sees chances, who moves toward opportunity, who no longer sabotages abundance when it arrives. Your inner world trains your outer behavior. And behavior, over time, builds a life. Now, as we float deeper, listen to the quiet electric buzz of belief at rest. Not dogmatic belief, not forced mantras, but soft, integrated knowing, the kind that doesn't need to be shouted. Just a quiet hum in your bones. Life can be good to me. This kind of belief doesn't deny hardship. It transcends it. It says, even with struggle, even with doubt, I'm still open. That openness is the channel through which your dreams travel. A channel carved by intention, emotion, and a brain that's slowly learning to expect good things. As the current slows around us, take a breath. Picture your mind as a glowing field, pulsing, listening, filtering. And tonight, as you drift into sleep, imagine that your thoughts are not just private whispers, but soft sonar pings sent out into a dark ocean, waiting, listening, calling your dreams home. Let yourself sink deeper now, through thickening currents where light no longer penetrates. We're descending into the architecture of desire, the biology of wanting. This is no airy, abstract space. It's warm, full of currents and pulses, neurons firing like underwater lightning. Here, inside the folds of your brain, lies a restless energy system sculpted over millions of years. It's ancient, instinctive, powerful. At the heart of this circuitry is dopamine, the star of the show. You've probably heard it called the pleasure chemical, but that's only part of the story. Dopamine isn't really about pleasure. It's about pursuit, motivation, anticipation. It's that electric hum you feel when something is just out of reach but within sight. It's what gets you out of bed when a reward glints on the horizon. In the world of manifesting, dopamine is the spark that lights the journey. Visualize a dream, more money, a vibrant community, a sense of peace, and notice how your body responds. The thought alone can trigger a small but meaningful dopamine release. Your body leans forward. You want it, and wanting sets everything in motion. Now imagine a system of pathways inside you, like an underground cave network. Each goal you chase, each dream you dare to visualize, sends a trickle of dopamine down those tunnels. When it reaches the right junction, it ignites movement, focus, curiosity. The biology of wanting propels you toward change long before you take a single action. But there's a twist. Your brain isn't designed for your dreams. It's designed for survival. And sometimes survival and satisfaction don't align. In ancient times, being vigilant, cautious, and constantly scanning for threats kept our ancestors alive. Today, those same systems can misfire. They can trick you into thinking change is dangerous. That chasing your dreams might result in failure, embarrassment, or loss. So even while dopamine urges you forward, other systems like the amygdala whisper fear, warning, hesitation. The inner tug of war begins. Have you ever set a big goal only to find yourself procrastinating or sabotaging it? That's not laziness. That's your limbic system doing its job, protecting you from the unknown. Your biology is trying to keep you safe in the short term, even if it means forfeiting long-term joy. You're not broken. You're wired for a different era. Understanding this can be strangely soothing. It means your resistance is natural, predictable, but also unnegotiable. Let's float beside one of those neural pathways now. See how it pulses faintly when you imagine a future where you thrive? That's your dopamine talking. But now feel the swirl of hesitation, those eddies and vortices where fear gathers like cold currents. That's the amygdala. That's your survival brain tugging at your ankle. Stay here, it says. The known is safer. To manifest effectively, you don't need to silence this voice. You just need to acknowledge it without obeying it. Say, I hear you. I see you. But I'm choosing growth. This is where emotional self-regulation becomes part of the science. When you learn to calm the stress response, through breath, through mindfulness, through gentle repetition, you create space for wanting to stretch its limbs. You move from reactive to receptive. You shift from fight or flight into flow. And this matters more than you might think. Because the pursuit of a dream life isn't a straight line. It's a biochemical experience. The more you understand it, the more you can ride it. Another key player in this orchestra is the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain behind your forehead, responsible for long-term thinking and planning. It's the compass and the captain. It sets intentions, forms strategies, and overrides impulses. But it's not always in charge. When you're stressed or sleep-deprived or overwhelmed, the limbic system takes over. You fall back on habit, on safety-seeking, on smallness. So the science of manifesting your dream life isn't about positive thinking alone. It's about creating the internal conditions where the prefrontal cortex can thrive, where dopamine can motivate, where fear doesn't get the final vote. That's why rituals matter. Morning routines, journaling, meditation, not because they're magic, but because they calm the inner noise, lower cortisol, and let your dreaming brain stay online longer. The more you return to your desires, gently, repeatedly, with presence, the more your body learns that dreaming is safe. That expansion isn't a threat. That success can feel familiar. And here's something beautiful. As you begin to chase dreams that matter to you, the dopamine response grows stronger. Your brain starts releasing more when you imagine or move toward those desires. It's a feedback loop, one that rewards growth, that rewards alignment, that rewards belief. So rather than waiting for motivation to strike, know this: motivation is a product of action. Take a small step, and the chemistry kicks in. Think of it like a jellyfish undulating through the dark. Movement generates more movement. Desire builds with use. Wanting deepens as you allow yourself to want more openly. You are not at war with your biology. You are its conductor. And while some notes might be dissonant at first, fear, hesitation, doubt, you can guide the music into harmony. With patience. With gentleness. With a deep respect for the ancient systems that just want to keep you alive. And now, as we hover in the still waters of this neural nightscape, let yourself feel that wanting is not wrong. It is natural. It is necessary. It is the spark of all transformation. Dreaming of a better life is not naive. It's biological. It's beautifully human. And the more fluently you speak the language of your inner chemistry, the more gracefully you'll dance with desire, letting it lead you toward the shoreline of a reality that once seemed impossibly far away. We move slower now, as if the water thickens around us. Down here, in the silence beneath thought, another force stirs, something social, something surprisingly ancient. You're not just made of neurons and chemicals. You're wired for connection. And it's in that connection, that mirroring, that we begin to understand one of the most powerful yet quiet forces in manifesting your dream life, the blueprinting power of other people. Mirror neurons are the subtle architects of this process. These special cells, first discovered in primates and later observed in humans, fire not only when you perform an action, but when you watch someone else perform it. If someone reaches for a glass of water, your mirror neurons light up as if you had reached. If someone smiles or cries or wins or stumbles, your brain, on a fundamental level, simulates their experience. It's an echo, a silent rehearsal. And without realizing it, you're updating your inner map of what is possible, normal, safe. Now imagine this. If you constantly observe people struggling, settling, or speaking in tones soaked in doubt and limitation, your subconscious records that as the model. This, it thinks, is how life is. This is the edge of the world. But the opposite is also true. Witness someone like you winning, truly thriving, and something inside shifts. The edge moves. A hidden door opens. This is more than mindset. It's mimicry, deeply embedded in your neural scaffolding. You've been absorbing blueprints since you were an infant, when even the twitch of your caregiver's eyebrow or the rhythm of their voice shaped your nervous system. Now you're an adult. But the patterning continues. Think of your mind like a coral reef, built slowly, layer by layer, from every interaction, every model behavior, every emotional tone in the voices around you. You aren't just manifesting from your intentions. You're manifesting from the emotional models etched into your mirror systems. And most of those weren't chosen. They were inherited. Let's say your dream life involves financial freedom. But if everyone you've seen struggle with money talked about wealth as greedy, unstable, or unattainable, your mirror neurons filed that away. When you begin to visualize abundance, some part of you might hesitate, not because you're wrong, but because the old blueprint is still running. It's like trying to build a modern skyscraper on medieval blueprints. The foundation needs an upgrade. So, how do you shift it? Start by consciously choosing your models. You don't have to know them. You just need to see them. Follow creators who inspire expansion, not fear. Watch interviews with people who succeeded from where you are, not just the top of the mountain, but the base camp too. Surround yourself, even digitally, with examples of lives that reflect your deepest desires. Your mirror neurons don't care if the connection is in person or through a screen. They just need to see. It's also why community matters. Who you talk to every day gently bends the limits of what you think is doable. Spend enough time around people who normalize joy, wealth, calm success, and your nervous system begins to relax into that frequency. The fear softens. The hesitation lightens. You start to think, maybe I can too. But don't worry if your current circle doesn't reflect your dream life yet. This isn't about judgment or cutting ties. It's about awareness. You can love people and still update your internal models. You can hold both compassion and boundaries. This is about supplementing, not severing. About adding light, not subtracting warmth. And here's a softer truth. Sometimes the person your mirror neurons need most is you. Your future self. The version of you you're becoming. Visualize that version in detail. Speak from their voice. Walk like they would. Eat as they might. Posture, tone, timing, it matters. These tiny acts of mimicry begin to reshape the wiring. You're not pretending. You're training. It's like guiding a young dolphin through dark waters by echoing back its own sound. Your subconscious hears the signal and begins to respond. This is who we are now. And there's a beautiful side effect. As you strengthen that inner model, you'll begin to feel drawn to people, places, and habits that reinforce it. You won't need to force change. You'll flow into it. Your reality will gently tilt toward alignment, like a current pulling you toward warmer water. This process isn't instantaneous. Neural rewiring takes time. But repetition is a language the brain speaks fluently. Every time you observe a new model, every time you show up as your future self, those mirror neurons adjust. The blueprint redraws itself. The ceiling becomes sky. And here's the secret. You've already been doing this all your life. Every dream you've ever had was built on something you saw or felt once, even briefly. Some small flash of someone living freely, laughing easily, glowing with ease. Your body remembered, even if your mind forgot. Let's drift a little longer in this space. Let your breath mirror the pace of the sea around you. Slow, rhythmic, receptive. Feel the gentle echo in your chest of every person who ever showed you a different possibility. Some are kind. Some are flawed. Some weren't even aware of what they gave you. But all of them helped build the scaffolding. And now it's your turn to remodel. Gently, intentionally, with love. You're not just a dreamer floating in space. You are an ecosystem of memory and mimicry. A reflection of reflections. A builder of unseen bridges between the past you've known and the life you're shaping now. The models matter. So choose them with care. And let their light ripple across the surface of your own becoming. We're drifting through strange and subtle waters now. An invisible tide that surrounds every thought, every breath, every moment of becoming. The dark here is soft, the current gentle, but there's a deep vibration beneath it all, like an unseen heartbeat. We've left behind the realms of belief and biology, and now we enter something harder to define, but impossible to ignore frequency. The tuning of the emotional self. You've felt it before, even if you didn't have the words for it. You walk into a room, and before anyone speaks, the energy hums. Something about the air feels light or heavy, soft or sharp, safe or tense. Your body reads the field instantly, long before your mind is caught up. That's emotional tuning in action, your nervous system responding to frequencies like a tuning fork struck in a silent room. But what does that mean in the science of manifesting? To manifest a life that feels aligned, rich with meaning, wealth, opportunity, you must learn to notice and then shift your frequency. Not the pretend kind. Not the smile plastered over panic kind. But the real felt state of your inner climate. The emotional weather that surrounds you like atmosphere. Because every emotion you feel radiates from you in subtle waves. And those waves influence what you notice, what you attract, what you allow in. Your emotions are not static states. They are signals. They vibrate at different intensities, move at different speeds, and hold different densities in the body. Joy feels expansive. Fear contracts. Gratitude softens. Shame tightens. This is not metaphor. It's the physical experience of frequency in the nervous system. You are, at every moment, a living transmitter, broadcasting not just words or actions, but emotional resonance. When you begin to understand this, the rules of manifesting change. You stop asking how to get what you want. And instead, you begin asking, what does the version of me who already has this feel like? You're not forcing the future. You're harmonizing with it. Because here's the subtle truth. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are a match for, emotionally, energetically. You attract based on your baseline state, not your highest hope. You can write affirmations all day, but if the frequency beneath those words is fear, then it's the fear that broadcasts the strongest. That's why gratitude is often so effective, not because it makes you good or noble, but because it is a stabilizing, coherent frequency. It calms the stress response. It softens the mental chatter. And in that calm, you become more open, more attuned to the subtle invitations that surround you. The frequency of gratitude is not just warm sentiment. It's a neurological event. When you feel genuine appreciation, your heart rhythm smooths. Your brainwaves shift. Your immune system gets stronger. The mind becomes more alert to possibility. You begin to perceive differently. That's what tuning does. It adjusts your filters the way a lens clarifies the view beneath the surface. So imagine now gently lifting your own frequency like adjusting the sails of a boat. Not to escape from where you are, but to better catch the wind of where you're going. Even one emotional degree of change can alter your course over time. You don't need to force joy. You don't need to leap from despair to elation. Emotional tuning is more like easing the dial. A slight shift. From frustration to curiosity. From numbness to openness. From shutdown to the tiniest spark of hope. That's enough. That's where the tuning begins. Let's move slowly now, through the practical beauty of this. You wake up. Before the day's noise fills you, you breathe. You place your feet on the floor with awareness. You remember your vision. You imagine, even briefly, the feeling of living inside that reality. Not to escape, but to feel into it, just enough to remind your system that this state exists, that it's safe, that it belongs to you. Throughout the day, you check in not obsessively, but lovingly. How am I tuned right now? Not where am I thinking, but how does it feel to be me in this moment? Are you open or clenched? Are you braced or flowing? The answers don't require fixing, just presence. And in presence, the frequency often shifts on its own. Sometimes the tuning comes through movement, dancing, walking, stretching, letting the body lead the way back to alignment. Sometimes it comes through silence, through music, through tears. There is no single method. Only one question. Does this bring me closer to the state that feels like home? You're not chasing the dream by running harder. You're calling it closer by matching its tone. You're becoming the future before it arrives. And in that resonance, something opens. Opportunities begin to appear, not because the universe suddenly noticed you, but because you finally tuned in to notice them. You begin to meet people who mirror your emotional clarity. You make decisions more swiftly. You stop leaking energy toward things that don't feel aligned. You become selective, not from ego, but from precision. And this, too, is manifesting. Not just calling things in, but clearing space for them. Holding the emotional tone long enough that your outer world begins to organize itself around the frequency within. Let's float here for a moment. No action, no striving, just feeling. Let your emotional body speak. Maybe there's tension. Maybe there's peace. Maybe there's a soft ache or a hum of aliveness. Whatever it is, it's welcome. It's information. It's your compass. The more fluently you speak this internal language, the more powerfully you'll shape what unfolds around you. You are a field, a tone, a living signal. And the clearer that signal becomes, the more easily your desires will find their way to you. So tonight, and in the quiet hours to come, ask not only what do I want to manifest, but also what emotional frequency does that life require of me? Then slowly, gently begin to match it, not as performance, but as preparation. Not to fake it, but to remember it. To return to the version of yourself who already knows the way. You are not trying to become someone new. You are simply tuning back in. Deeper still, we drift now, where the currents are almost imperceptible and the world moves slowly, like ancient whales gliding through velvet dark. This is the level of habit loops and invisible architects, the silent forces that build your life while you're busy focusing on the loud, the urgent, the dramatic. We tend to think of our lives as being shaped by big decisions. But down here, in the depths of your subconscious, it's the tiny patterns that hold the true power. The morning routines, the mental refrains, the routes you take, the foods you choose, the way you talk to yourself when no one's listening. These habits are the architects of your reality. Let's begin with a loop, cue, behavior, reward. Your alarm goes off, that's the cue. You groggily reach for your phone and start scrolling, behavior. You get a little dopamine hit, a distraction from the discomfort of waking, reward. Repeat that often enough, and it becomes automatic. You don't think. You just do. Habits are efficiency tools. Your brain, trying to conserve energy, bundles behavior into loops so it doesn't have to think through every action. That's a gift, but also a trap. Because once a habit loop forms, it becomes a kind of autopilot. And your life becomes the sum of these unconscious scripts. Now zoom out. If most of your habits are tuned toward fear, self-doubt, or delay, you'll find yourself drifting further from the life you're trying to manifest, even if you're visualizing, journaling, affirming. Not because you're doing it wrong, but because your inner architects are still building from old blueprints. Picture a coral reef again, not just vibrant, glowing life, but the structures built over decades by tiny, consistent movements. That's what your habits do. They build environments inside you, layer by layer. And unless you change the builders, the tiny behaviors, you're renovating the dream life on a foundation that won't hold. Let's look at how to rewrite those blueprints. First, identify a keystone habit, something small but influential that cascades into other areas. It might be drinking a full glass of water first thing in the morning, or making your bed, or 5 minutes of silence before your day begins. These sound simple because they are, but they send a message to your subconscious. I'm someone who takes care of things. I create order. I begin with intention. That identity shift is more powerful than the act itself. Because once your subconscious believes a new story about who you are, it begins building behaviors to match. Let's float through an example. Say you're manifesting financial abundance. Your habit loop might currently include avoiding your bank account cue, anxiety around money, behavior, ignore finances, reward, temporary relief. But over time, this creates financial fog. You don't see opportunities. You miss warning signs. Your inner architect is building with avoidance. Now imagine a new loop. Cue, same financial anxiety. New behavior. Open the account, take one small action, maybe labeling expenses or setting aside $5. Reward, pride, clarity, a sense of direction. The brain notices. Over time, the architect adapts. New structures emerge. You're not chasing wealth. You're embodying a person who handles wealth well. And that identity, brick by brick, builds the reality you've been visualizing. There's beauty in this process because it doesn't rely on dramatic transformation. It honors the slow, steady shaping of your life from the inside out. It says you don't need to leap. You need to step again and again until the path forms under your feet. Even your thoughts become habits. Neural pathways deepen every time you repeat a story to yourself. If that story is "things never work out for me," your brain gets good at looking for evidence of that. But if the new habit becomes "I'm becoming someone who learns from every experience," your perception adjusts. New paths form. This is why the science of manifesting isn't about sudden miracles. It's about sustainable rewiring. Repetition isn't boring. It's sacred. It's what moves information from the conscious mind into the subconscious. The place where true manifesting begins. Let's bring it into your body. Feel your breathing right now. Slow, steady, soft. That's a habit too. A physical loop. And each time you return to that breath with presence, you're teaching your nervous system that safety is your baseline. Not panic. Not doubt. But calm readiness. That emotional state becomes fertile ground for new habits. When you feel safe, you can change. When you feel threatened, even dreams can feel dangerous. So regulate gently. Create small rituals that feel kind. Make consistency feel like a gift, not a punishment. And trust that even the smallest habit, if aligned with your future self, is a form of manifesting. Let's pause here and imagine your dream life not as a destination, but as a rhythm, a pattern. What would the daily version of that life feel like? Were the invisible architects already at work, building or blocking that dream? In this quiet darkness, you are allowed to choose, to rewire, to rebuild. The mind doesn't resist small changes. It welcomes them. So start there. A new phrase, a new morning breath, a new way of speaking to yourself in the mirror. This is how the dream becomes real, not in bursts of lightning, but in the quiet chiseling of habit day after day, until the architecture matches the vision you've been holding in your heart. Your dream life is not waiting for you far away. It is built slowly in the shadows of today. We float now through a strange coral forest, where color pulses softly in the dark, faint shapes forming and dissolving in the near silence. This is the realm of imagery, of symbols, of vision boards and mental snapshots. Here, language fades. The spoken word dissolves. What remains is picture, pattern, light. Welcome to the domain where your brain dreams in color. Welcome to the visual mind. You may have heard that a picture is worth 1,000 words. In neurological terms, this is truer than you might imagine. Your brain processes visual information 60,000 times faster than text. That's not a metaphor, it's a mechanism. You're biologically wired to prioritize images. You evolved scanning landscapes for signs of danger or opportunity. Before you spoke, you saw. Before you wrote, you imagined. Vision is the mother tongue of the subconscious. That's why visualization, and its cousin the vision board, can feel so strange and powerful at once. Because you're not just entertaining pretty pictures. You're feeding your brain a language it speaks fluently. And what you show it repeatedly, it begins to treat as familiar. No, achievable. Let's explore this more slowly. Think about your dream life again. More wealth, peace, laughter, freedom, connection. Instead of thinking about it, see it. Not in vague terms, but with detail. Where are you? What's on the walls? What time do you wake up? What's the texture of your bed sheets? What shoes are you slipping on? The more precise your visualizations, the more your brain registers them as experiences. And that's the secret. Your subconscious doesn't fully distinguish between real and vividly imagined, especially when emotion is present. That's why a nightmare can jolt you awake with your heart racing. The brain believed it. In this same way, you can rehearse your dream life without moving a muscle. You're training your brain for a new normal. You're running drills in possibility. And the more you run them, the more easily your nervous system will guide you toward the thoughts, actions, and risks required to make them real. Now enter the vision board. Whether it's a physical corkboard or a folder on your phone, this isn't about manifesting like magic. It's about reminding your brain again and again what matters, what feels right, what looks like you. It's a visual anchor, a sacred nudge, a whisper from the future. And here's the twist most people miss. Symbols matter just as much as literal photos. Maybe you pin a photo of a hummingbird, not because you want to live as one, but because it represents freedom, agility, sweetness. Your subconscious loves this. It works with symbols the way dreams do, nonlinear, intuitive, suggestive. The hummingbird isn't just a bird. It's a frequency, an emotion, called to remember your lightness. That's why certain colors, textures, and abstract images can activate you more than a photo of a mansion. They don't point to a goal. They point to a state. And that's the key to real manifesting. Because we don't really want things. We want how we imagine those things will make us feel. So use your visuals to evoke those feelings now. That's how you teach your nervous system to trust joy, to recognize beauty, to find comfort in expansion. Here's a practice. Spend 5 minutes tonight before sleep creating a movie in your mind. You're the director, the lead actor, and the composer. Build a short, emotional scene from your dream life. Keep it consistent, repeat it often, and always end on a note of peace. Why before sleep? Because your brainwaves are shifting from beta to alpha to theta, that dreamy, suggestible state where the subconscious is wide open. You're drifting between control and surrender. It's the perfect time to feed your inner world new images. And if you wake up in the night, run the scene again. Even fragments of imagery help. Your brain isn't demanding perfection, it's asking for presence, for emotional congruence, for inner clarity. There's also a quieter benefit here. Visioning helps you say no. Once you know what you want to feel, what you want your life to look like, it becomes easier to recognize what doesn't fit. The fake yes, the half choice, the patterns that keep you circling instead of soaring. Your vision becomes a compass, not just a wish. And with repetition, the compass gets stronger. You'll begin to make different micro-decisions. You'll spend differently, walk differently, even speak differently, more aligned with your imagined self. And that alignment is what attracts new realities, not just in theory, but in measurable, trackable ways. Because now your vision is influencing your filters. Remember the reticular activating system? That tiny part of your brainstem that decides what's important. Your visuals, if repeated with emotion, begin to inform that filter. Suddenly, you start spotting the opportunity, the door, the person, the email you would have missed before. The world hasn't changed, but your lens has. So tonight, as we float in this image-soaked zone of imagination, ask yourself, what am I showing my mind again and again? Is it cluttered with worry snapshots? Or curated with care? You don't need a perfect plan. You just need to keep feeding your brain a new language, one rich in color, feeling, and invitation. And as the images take root, your life will follow. Not because the universe is a vending machine, but because you are the painter. And the dream life, it begins with a canvas you dare to look at every day. We move forward now, deeper into stillness, past delicate jellyfish undulating like slow thoughts, their tendrils trailing like whispered intentions. This part of the ocean is sacred calm, but pulsing with tension just beneath the surface. Because here, in this quiet, we arrive at one of the most misunderstood elements in the science of manifesting, action. Not frantic, grinding action. Not hustling until your joy dissolves, but the kind of action that emerges from alignment, like a whale slowly surfacing, exhaling with purpose. The truth is, you can't manifest your dream life by thinking alone. You are not a brain floating in the void. You're a full-bodied being, and the body was made to move. There's a reason daydreams feel euphoric and full of possibility, but without action they fade. It's not because the universe isn't listening. It's because you haven't spoken in its language yet, and that language is behavior. Here's the paradox. Most people get stuck between two extremes. Either they believe that thinking and feeling are enough, that the dream will just arrive if they meditate hard enough. Or they swing the other way, taking endless action from a place of panic, scarcity, and pressure. Neither route gets you there, because action without alignment is exhausting, and alignment without action is a fantasy. What you need is aligned action, small, purposeful moves rooted in your vision, guided by your emotion, and fueled by your inner sense of yes. Let's ground this in biology. When you visualize a goal with feeling, you activate the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for planning and intentional action. But unless you follow that with some kind of movement, the signal gets weaker. Your body begins to doubt. The neural circuit doesn't complete. However, if you take even a single step, a phone call, a list, a conversation, a walk that stirs clarity, you reinforce the loop. You send a message to your brain. This is real. We're doing it. And dopamine responds. The system begins to reinforce itself. Imagine a jellyfish drifting slowly through black water. That's the dream in your mind. But now imagine it pulsing its bell. Each pulse the small movement forward. That's action. And with every motion, it moves closer to what it cannot yet see. This is what your body wants. Momentum. Not because speed is important, but because movement says commitment. The universe doesn't respond to fantasy. It responds to signals. And behavior is a bold, unmistakable signal. So ask yourself gently, what's one small thing I can do today that aligns with the life I want? Not 10 things, just one. Maybe it's sending that email, or researching that idea. Maybe it's as subtle as decluttering your desk, making space in your environment so your energy can flow again. These are not random tasks. They are declarations, markers, evidence that you are meeting your dream halfway. Because energy meets structure, intention meets implementation, spirit meets skin. And here's a truth people avoid. Inaction is a form of action. Every time you postpone, doubt, scroll instead of start, you're still making a choice. Still casting a vote for the current version of reality. This doesn't mean you need to push yourself constantly. Quite the opposite. Aligned action feels gentle, organic, sometimes even enjoyable. It's the moment you write because the idea won't let you sleep. The moment you say no to a draining client because your future self wouldn't say yes. The moment you shift from someday to how about now. The beauty of this process is that your actions can be tiny and still massively meaningful. The brain loves closure. It loves tasks that complete loops. So when you take one step toward your dream, even if it's just outlining an idea or moving your body to music that feels like the life you want, you start a neurological cascade. You are, in essence, telling your subconscious, we're already living it. Now, you may feel hesitation here. But what if I act and nothing happens? That's normal. The brain, especially the fearful part, will always want proof before effort. But manifesting isn't a vending machine. It's a field. You plant, you tend, you show up in rhythm, and in time, the result grows. Even when you can't see it yet, aligned action leaves an imprint. Not just in your external world, but in your body. Your sense of identity begins to shift from someone who dreams to someone who creates. And that shift is everything. Because manifesting isn't passive. It's a dialogue. You imagine, feel, and then act. The act, no matter how small, becomes an offering, a signal, a vow. And the universe responds not to noise, but to clarity. Let's look at the emotional side of action too. Sometimes you wait to feel confident before doing something. But in truth, confidence often comes after the act, not before. You feel capable because you acted, not because you were sure you could. Action teaches the body it can handle expansion. That success isn't dangerous. That change isn't death. And when fear shows up, don't panic. It means you're on the edge of a shift. It's the body's ancient language for this is unfamiliar. But unfamiliar isn't unsafe. It's just unpracticed. So meet fear with movement. Walk with it. Talk kindly to it. And then take the step anyway. Because every action is a spell, a declaration, a drumbeat in the quiet. And with each beat, the dream becomes less mist, more matter. Let this comfort you. You don't need to know all the steps. You just need to take the next one. The path will keep revealing itself as you walk, like a glowing trail that only lights up when you move your foot forward. So as we float now in the soft pulse of this underwater night, ask yourself, what am I ready to do? Not to prove, not to impress, but to align? Then do it, however small, however quietly. Because this is the secret, the dream you've been holding isn't waiting to be imagined. It's waiting to be met. The water grows colder here. Still smooth, still quiet. But it carries a deeper ache, like memory suspended in liquid. We've passed the zones of dreaming and doing. Now we descend into the sediment layers of something older. Something wired into your bones before you even had words for it. This is the realm of scarcity wiring and money myths. To understand why you struggle to manifest wealth, or why it sometimes arrives only to slip through your fingers, you have to go far, far back. Before your first job, before your first dollar, before your very first no, back to the stories. Not the ones you tell yourself now, the ones you inhaled. Everyone carries financial scripts, emotional DNA about worth, effort, value, and survival. And most of these scripts were written not by you, but by the people who raised you, the cultures you absorbed, and the systems that shaped your early view of the world. Let's say you grew up hearing money doesn't grow on trees, or we can't afford that, or rich people are greedy. Those aren't just phrases. They're blueprints. They nest in the subconscious, laying down neural paths that determine what feels possible, safe, and even moral. Now, imagine trying to manifest abundance while carrying the belief that wealth equals corruption, or that wanting more makes you selfish, or that money is hard to keep. It's like trying to swim upward with stones in your pockets. The science of scarcity begins in the brain. When you're in a scarcity state, whether real or perceived, your prefrontal cortex becomes less active. That's the part responsible for long-term planning, creativity, and good decision-making. In scarcity, your brain focuses on survival. On the short term, it becomes reactive instead of receptive. This is important. Even if you have enough, if you feel like you don't, your brain reacts as if danger is near. That's why you might get nervous when a bill arrives, even if you can pay it. Or why you might avoid checking your balance. Or impulse buy things you don't need. It's not about logic. It's about wiring. And that wiring often loops back to childhood. Maybe you watched your parents argue about money. Or you sensed stress even when no one said a word. Maybe you learned, quietly and painfully, that asking for too much love or too much help, or too many school supplies was unsafe. So you stopped asking. Scarcity became normal. Wanting became dangerous. And now, as an adult trying to manifest a dream life, you're not just pushing against the world. You're pushing against invisible scripts etched into your nervous system. Let's breathe here. There's no blame. This isn't about shame or regret. It's about awareness. Because once you see the script, you can question it. Let's float past a few common money myths. I have to work hard for every dollar. This sounds noble, but if it's tied to suffering, it creates burnout. It blocks ease. It makes wealth feel conditional, like you must earn it through pain. It's selfish to want more. Who told you that? And how do they live? More often than not, this belief was taught by those who didn't feel they were allowed to expand either. Money changes people. It's not money that changes people. It's unresolved wounds plus money that changes people. Conscious wealth often reveals your values, not erases them. Now let's layer in the body. Scarcity isn't just a belief. It's a sensation. Tight shoulders, shallow breath, stomach tension, When you say, I'm broke or I can't afford that, your body listens. It adjusts to match the message, and that state becomes your norm. To change your outer wealth, you often have to regulate your inner state first. That doesn't mean lying to yourself or pretending to be rich when you're not. It means slowly teaching your nervous system that safety is possible, even while desiring more. You do this with small, repeated acts of self-trust. Checking your bank account without flinching. Creating a money date with yourself once a week with tea, music, presents. Celebrating even the tiniest inflow, not to fake it, but to recognize it. You start to rewrite the pattern. You tell your body, we're safe. We're allowed to grow. We're allowed to receive. And then you back that with aligned behavior, like setting boundaries, asking for more, charging your worth. Not in aggression, in self-honoring. The scarcity wiring may still whisper, but it doesn't get to steer anymore. This is when abundance becomes not just a number, but a state, a way of existing, a new emotional frequency you carry with you into every room, every negotiation, every dream. And once you enter that state, consistently, kindly, the world begins to reflect it back. You notice the opportunities. You speak with clarity. You hold wealth differently. You stop leaking energy trying to prove you're deserving, because you finally believe it. And that belief is louder than any childhood myth, any inherited fear, any ancestral echo that said, this isn't for you. As we hover now in this cool, dark space, your body soften. Whisper inwardly, I release the scarcity I was taught. I remember the abundance that is my birthright. Let that become a quiet rhythm, like a current beneath your thoughts. Not forced, not frantic, just remembered. Because the truth is, you've always been enough. And now you are simply letting your life catch up. The ocean around you begins to shimmer now, not with sunlight, but with movement, like scattered signals sent through black water. Not fish, not predators, something stranger. Patterns, coincidences, moments that make your spine tingle. You see, we've entered the realm where science and intuition begin to merge, where manifesting takes the form of synchronicity and cognitive filters. You've likely experienced it before. You think about someone, and they call. You write down a goal, and a relevant podcast pops up. You declare a new intention, and suddenly conversations, numbers, symbols, or unexpected detours start showing up like breadcrumbs. Is it chance? Or is it filtering? Let's start with what we know. Your brain is constantly overwhelmed with data, sights, sounds, smells, textures, ideas. Millions of signals flood in every second. To function, your brain must filter this down to a manageable stream. That job belongs to the reticular activating system, or RAS. The RAS is a gatekeeper, and you train it whether consciously or not. When you tell it what matters to you, through repetition, emotion, or vivid attention, it starts letting in matching signals. It's not magic. It's selective perception. So when you begin manifesting, visualizing wealth, or love, or ease, you're not just asking the universe. You're giving your RAS new instructions. This is now relevant to me. This matters. Show me. And it does. Suddenly you notice an event you would have scrolled past. Or a conversation lights up a dormant idea. Or you see a path through a problem that was invisible before. This is where synchronicity starts to feel real. Not because the universe rearranged itself, but because you rearrange the way you interpret and interact with it. Of course, there may be more to it. Jung, the famed psychologist, coined the term synchronicity to describe meaningful coincidences that have no apparent causal link. He believed there was a connective thread between inner thoughts and outer events, a nonlinear web of significance. Whether it's quantum entanglement or simply deep pattern recognition, the experience of synchronicity feels like the world winking at you. Let's slow here. Imagine setting a strong, clear intention to find a new home that feels peaceful and alive. The next day, you hear a random comment about a neighborhood you've never considered. You look it up. A listing appears. It has the garden you pictured. The rent is lower than expected, The timing works out. Was that the universe answering? Maybe. But it was also you tuned in, aligned, open. Your cognitive filters had adjusted. Your willingness to see had expanded. Here's where many people get confused. They think if a synchronicity happens, it's fate. But sometimes it's just feedback. Not a command to act, but a reminder that you're on track. That your frequency is syncing with your vision. And sometimes it's just your brain noticing new patterns. Which, by the way, is not less magical. Because being able to shift your perception so dramatically that the world begins to look and feel different, that's a miracle too. Let's take a breath here and feel into your filters. What is your RAS tuned to right now? Doubt? Risk? Delay? Or beauty? Readiness? Flow? The RAS doesn't judge. It just listens. It adapts. You train it with repetition, with clarity, and especially with emotionally charged imagery. If you keep imagining struggle, it will notice signs of struggle. If you rehearse joy, it will highlight opportunities for joy. So one powerful way to boost your manifesting is to create new signals. Start the day by writing down your focus. Look for it. Expect it. Not obsessively, but curiously. I'm open to signs of growth today. I'm watching for solutions. I'm tuned to abundance. Watch how the day begins to echo that. Softly. Not with fireworks, but with flickers. And the more you notice those flickers, the more you reinforce the loop. Your belief deepens. Your body relaxes. Your actions align. You become the kind of person who expects things to work out, and therefore behaves in ways that make that more likely. You can even anchor this with small rituals. A favorite object on your desk. A sticky note in your wallet. A sound that means, I'm listening. These cues gently remind your brain to keep filtering through your intention. They keep the signal strong. Now let's address a natural question. What if I think I'm getting signs, but I'm just imagining things? That's okay. Manifesting isn't about certainty. It's about relationship. Between you and your world. Between desire and interpretation. If something feels like a sign to you, if it moves you, sharpens you, lifts your chest, it is a sign, even if no one else would see it. Because you don't need universal confirmation. You only need personal coherence. And here's the quiet truth. The more you engage with the world this way, noticing, responding, trusting, the more alive it becomes. You go from passive observer to co-creator. You begin to dance with reality. And as you dance, reality begins to respond. So tonight, as you drift through this underwater twilight, remember that the signals are always there. The world is full of meaning. You are not missing it, you're training for it. Let your brain become a net, catching tiny signs. Let your thoughts send out echoes. Let your body respond with recognition, even before understanding. You're not just watching life, you're shaping how it shows up. And in that, you become your own synchronicity. We drift now into a dim, hushed valley, where the ocean floor rises in slow, sweeping ridges, sculpted not by storms, but by time and gentle pressure. In this quiet space, it becomes clear you are not a closed system. Your thoughts do not begin and end in your head. Your mind, your emotions, your behaviors, they all stretch outward, tethered invisibly to the space around you. The environment you inhabit is not passive. It shapes you constantly. And as you attempt to manifest your dream life, it matters more than you think. Picture this, a cluttered room, harsh lighting, chaotic energy buzzing in the background. You walk into it, and without saying a word, your body knows. Your shoulders rise. Your breath tightens. Your brain goes a little fuzzy. Contrast that with a space filled with softness, natural light, gentle order, a texture you love to touch, a sound you love to hear. Your system settles. Your heart rate lowers. Thought becomes spacious again. The external world has entered the internal one, like dye swirling into clear water. This is what environmental psychology has long suggested. That space isn't neutral. It primes emotion. It nudges behavior. and it whispers constantly to your subconscious, this is who you are. This is what we expect from you. So when we talk about manifesting your dream life, we're not just talking about thought, intention, and action. We're also talking about what you surround yourself with, what your senses absorb without you noticing, what your environment quietly teaches your nervous system to expect. When your surroundings are aligned with your vision, everything becomes easier. You think more clearly. You move with more intention. But when your environment contradicts your desired reality, your energy fragments. It takes more willpower to dream. Your nervous system may not feel safe enough to expand. Even if your heart believes in abundance, the space that echoes lack will create friction. Now imagine waking up in a room that reflects your future. Not grand, not fantasy-level lavish, just considered. You reach for a notebook that's already open to your vision. You light a small candle, not out of obligation, but because it signals to your brain that something sacred is beginning. A ritual of clarity, a moment of becoming. In that brief sliver of time, your environment is doing the work with you. It's not fighting your intention. It's supporting it. Your space holds memory, mood, and momentum. It tells your body what kind of day to have before your conscious mind has even opened its eyes. That's the power of small, consistent cues, objects, and arrangements that reinforce your identity as someone worthy of their dream life. A tidy desk doesn't just say, I'm organized. It says, honor my ideas. A post-it with a kind phrase isn't just decoration, it's calibration. And the more frequently you're exposed to these cues, the more naturally your inner world aligns with the life you're calling in. This doesn't stop at the physical, of course. Your digital environment counts too. The tabs you keep open, the voices you follow, the feeds you scroll through when you're tired. These are all forms of space, and they whisper to your subconscious just as clearly as the room you're in. If your phone is filled with drama, comparison, or noise, that becomes the psychic weather you live under. But if it's curated to reflect beauty, vision, and encouragement, your nervous system feels more ready to receive the future you're dreaming of. Your environment is not just where you live. It's how you signal to your subconscious that this is the new standard. This is the shape of the life you're walking into. You don't have to wait until you're wealthy to create a sense of peace, order, or intention. In fact, doing so now, before the dream fully arrives, is one of the most powerful forms of preparation. The dream doesn't feel like a surprise when it lands in a space that's already holding it. This isn't about perfection. It's about resonance. About choosing again and again to surround yourself with reminders of who you're becoming, not who you were or who the world told you to be. It's about walking through your space and asking, not with judgment, but with wonder, does this reflect the frequency I want to live in? Your environment is not inert. It's alive with influence. It carries its own pulse, its own breath. And the moment you begin to align that breath with yours, something begins to shift. Life becomes less of a fight and more of a flow. You don't have to push as hard. The wind begins to help. So as we drift gently through this quiet zone, feel the spaces you inhabit wrapping around you like soft kelp. Not clinging, just shaping, whispering, remembering, and ask, what if I made just one small shift? What if I lit one candle, cleared one surface, added one reminder that said, this life belongs to me now? Then tomorrow you add another, and another, until your home, your devices, your routines all echo your deepest intention, without words, without effort, just alignment, just readiness. Just the slow, steady transformation of a space that knows exactly who it's preparing for. Your dream life isn't waiting. It's walking toward you. Let it recognize your home when it arrives. The waters are wide here, still dark, but electric. Charged not with solitude, but with presence. We are never truly alone in the deep. Even in silence, there are currents pulling at us, some gentle, some strong. Invisible forces ripple through this place, brushing against skin and thought alike. You are not drifting in isolation. You are in orbit. And the others you orbit, they matter more than you know. This is the field of social gravity, the subtle pull of influence that shapes what you believe is possible, how you act, and how far you allow yourself to grow. Not through commands or control, but through something softer, something whispered. A tone, a glance, a quiet joke that makes expansion feel ridiculous, or a sigh that makes dreaming feel indulgent. The people you surround yourself with, whether they mean to or not, help sculpt the edges of your reality. Think of your desires as embers. At first, they burn hot and fragile. You nurture them. You shield them. But place them too long near water, too much doubt, sarcasm, judgment, and the glow dims. You still carry the dream, but it flickers now, unsure of its welcome. Sometimes the people we love the most are the ones who doubt us the hardest, not out of cruelty, but out of fear. Fear that change will take us away. Fear that our growth will mirror their stuckness. Fear that if you succeed, they'll feel left behind. And so they say things that seem caring but land like chains. Just be careful. Don't get your hopes up. Are you sure that's realistic? You begin to shrink, not because you failed, but because your nervous system registers that dreaming is dangerous. That standing tall makes you vulnerable. And vulnerability to a primal brain is always a risk. But there is another side. There are people who speak to your future self as if they already know her. People who say, "Of course you'll make it," and mean it. People whose belief isn't loud but deep, steady, trustworthy. When you find those people, even one or two, your nervous system responds. It lifts its guard. Your embers catch wind. Social gravity isn't just emotional. It's biological. Mirror neurons fire when you witness someone else succeeding. The act of seeing becomes the act of believing. Not just in them, but in yourself. This is how influence works, by showing your brain new blueprints, new normals, new thresholds of joy and power and peace. But not all gravity is gentle. Sometimes we find ourselves in orbits that pull us downward. Rooms where ambition is met with suspicion. Conversations that always spiral into complaint. Jokes that mask deep discomfort with anyone daring to live differently. If you stay in that field too long, you begin to bend toward it. Not because you agree, but because resistance takes energy. And no one can resist forever. This doesn't mean you have to walk away from everyone who doubts. But it does mean you must become intentional about where you place your energetic roots. Not every soil will support your growth. Not every climate will let you bloom. You can love people and still limit their influence. You can share history without sharing direction. Sometimes the most powerful act of manifesting is not making a vision board, but quietly removing yourself from a room where your dreams go to die. And sometimes the reverse is true. You enter a new space, physical or digital, and you feel your spine straighten. You hear someone speak about success with joy instead of guilt, and something clicks. This is the air I've been missing. Not because it hands you answers, but because it hands you permission. In those spaces, you begin to soften into your future self. The mask drops. The posture changes. You laugh more, not because life is easier, but because something inside you is less clenched, less defended, less alone. We become who we're around slowly, almost imperceptibly, one echo at a time. And so the question arises, what kind of echoes are shaping you right now? Are you being pulled toward expansion or contraction? Do the people in your field help you remember your vision or forget it? You don't need a tribe of perfect thinkers. You need a few resonant hearts. People who don't flinch when you speak boldly. People who hold space when you stumble and still see where you're going. People who don't just support your dream, but speak to it as if it's already here. And if you haven't found them yet, become one. Be the person who asks others about their goals without irony, who listens with reverence, who refuses to shrink in order to keep someone else comfortable. That energy is magnetic. It draws your people, your field, your mirror. Because energy doesn't lie. It seeks its match. And when you begin to emit the frequency of your dream life, not with words, but with being, you become a signal. Others tuned to that same station will find you, sometimes suddenly, sometimes softly, as if they'd been waiting. And together you'll create a new orbit, one where manifestation is not only allowed, but expected, where your joy isn't met with silence, but with celebration, where your evolution doesn't make you an outsider, but a leader, a light. As we drift now in this wide, electrified water, imagine yourself in the center of your own field of influence. Feel the tug of every voice, every gaze, every energy. Some pull you backward, some forward, some are neutral, just there. And now, gently, lovingly, start tuning. Not with force, but with frequency. Call on the ones who help you rise, who reflect your becoming, who speak your dream like it's their own, because your field shapes your future. And tonight, your future is listening. Let yourself go weightless now, not falling, not rising, just hovering. Time slows here, almost disappears. The currents pause. Nothing is being pushed. Nothing is being forced. This is the sensation you've been edging toward all along. Flow. The frictionless state where desire, thought, and action become one continuous breath. Flow is not an abstract concept. It's a deeply researched psychological state, measurable, repeatable, and when you understand it, trainable. It is where true manifesting becomes less about reaching and more about being, where you are no longer chasing the dream life, but living inside the very emotion that dream would bring. It feels like time dissolving, like being both effortful and effortless at once. And it is one of the clearest signs that you are aligned. To enter flow, certain conditions are required, but none of them are mystical. In fact, they are surprisingly grounded. You need focus, clear goals, a slight edge of challenge, just enough to stretch you without overwhelming. And perhaps most importantly, you need to silence the internal chatter, the critic, the doubter, the voice that asks if you're doing it right. Think about the last time you were so deeply engaged in something that you forgot to check the clock. Maybe you were painting, writing, solving a problem, or even just walking with music in your ears and the whole world humming to your rhythm. That wasn't a coincidence. That was flow. You weren't outside your life observing it. You were inside it, fully, completely. In that state, the body and mind become synchronized. Brainwaves shift into what researchers call the alpha-theta bridge, a zone of relaxed, receptive awareness. Your nervous system calms. Your sense of self loosens, sometimes dissolves. You stop judging your experience and instead begin participating in it directly. And because you're no longer split between action and overthinking, your output becomes cleaner, more efficient, more alive. Manifesting from this state feels different. It's not about writing down affirmations while clenching your jaw. It's not about trying to stay positive through sheer force. In flow, your thoughts are already aligned. Your energy isn't fighting you. It's flowing with you. You're no longer swimming upstream. That's why so many creatives, athletes, and thinkers describe breakthroughs happening in states of deep immersion. Not when they were forcing the outcome, but when they surrendered to the process. Because flow is presence, and presence is where your full self can meet possibility with nothing in the way. Now imagine applying this to your own dream life. Not in some distant high-pressure moment, but right now. Imagine shaping your day so that entering flow isn't a rare accident, but a recurring practice. You begin with intention. You reduce noise. You set your environment to support you, not distract you. And you let yourself do one thing at a time with your whole self. This might mean starting your day with a ritual that brings you back to your body. It might mean setting a timer and focusing deeply on something you care about, even for just 10 minutes. It might mean finding a rhythm, soundtrack, a sensory cue that says we're entering the zone now. And over time, that state becomes easier to access. Your body remembers. Your mind softens. You become more creative, more productive, more connected, not just to your goals, but to your life. This is why flow is essential to manifesting, not as a bonus, but as a pathway. Because when you are in flow, you stop broadcasting fear. You stop bracing against what's next. You let the dream move toward you, because you're no longer in the way. Your frequency stabilizes. Your brain stops scanning for threats and begins looking for momentum. And you start to see opportunities not as pressure points, but as invitations. In flow, even challenges become smoother. You solve faster. You recover quicker. You pivot without panic. Because your system isn't rigid anymore, it's responsive. Think of it like a jellyfish in motion, not thrashing through the water, just pulsing gently, perfectly suited to its environment. Not because it's passive, but because it's attuned. And you can cultivate this attunement day by day through practice. You don't need to wait for perfect conditions. You simply create pockets of space where your mind and body can meet without interference, where the noise of self-judgment dies down and your natural intelligence rises up. You already know how to do this. You've done it before. Flow is not something foreign. It's familiar. You've just forgotten how often it's available to you. Sometimes it appears in movement, your body stretching, walking, dancing, moving just enough to lose the edge of thought. Sometimes in stillness, breath slowing, awareness widening, presence sharpening until the moment becomes enough. And sometimes it comes when you least expect it, while washing dishes, organizing papers, rearranging furniture. A quiet action done with full presence. No need to perform. Just being with what is. That is flow too. And as you spend more time in this state, something shifts. You stop seeing manifestation as a task and begin to see it as a rhythm, a current, one you can step into not by force, but by trust. Because when you're in flow, you're not just aligned with your future. You're embodying it. You don't need to think positive. You already feel good. You don't need to overanalyze. You already know. You don't need to force things to happen. You're already moving, and so are they. Tonight, as we hover in this weightless place, let yourself remember the feeling of flow. Let your breath be your first pulse. Let silence become space. Let your next thought come slowly, if at all. There's nothing to fix. There's nothing to rush. There's only this moment, this motion, this now. Because the most powerful version of you isn't tense or trying. She is moving with a tide. She is in flow. Now we descend into the deepest zone yet, so deep that even light forgets how to reach it. A place of profound quiet where strange creatures pulse and dream in their own time. There are no sharp edges here. Only slow rhythms, steady tides, and the soft weaving of something ancient. This is the underworld of consciousness, the domain of sleep and dreaming, where manifesting may unfold in ways we never consciously see. Tonight, we enter the night shift brain. By day, you try. You focus. You imagine. You act. But when night falls and your eyes close, your mind is not powered down. It shifts. It changes frequency. It begins an invisible process of reordering reality, not just the facts of your day, but the meaning of it. Sleep isn't just for rest. It's a laboratory of transformation. In the early stages of sleep, your brain begins filing, sorting, classifying. Useless information is discarded. Emotional memories are prioritized. And then as you drift deeper, you enter rapid eye movement, REM, the dreaming stage. And in this stage, something extraordinary happens. Your brain begins to simulate. Not randomly, not meaninglessly, but in a way that mirrors your waking world, while bending its rules. Dreams are where the subconscious communicates in metaphor. It takes your fears, desires, questions, and plays them out on a strange, symbolic stage. And in doing so, it helps you make sense of your life, not logically, but emotionally. For manifesting, this is powerful, because it means you're not just shaping your reality while awake. You're influencing it in your sleep. You are imprinting new patterns in the very state where your mind is most suggestible, most fertile, most open to transformation. This is why the moments just before sleep are sacred. In that twilight space, when your brain shifts from beta to alpha to theta, you are closer to the subconscious than at any other point in the day. Whatever emotional tone you carry into sleep tends to echo through the night. If you go to bed stressed or anxious, your dreams reflect that state. But if you fall asleep while holding an image of your future life, with gratitude, with softness, with peace, you plan it deeper. That's not just poetic. It's physiological. During REM sleep, the amygdala, which processes emotions, becomes highly active. The prefrontal cortex, your inner critic, goes quiet. You stop judging. You start feeling. The rules loosen. The symbols emerge. And in this loosened state, your mind rehearses alternate realities. Some chaotic, yes, but others full of insight and instruction. Have you ever solved a problem in a dream? Woken up with clarity? That's the night shift at work. And if you train this state, gently, patiently, it becomes a powerful tool in your manifesting practice. Before bed, rather than collapsing into unconsciousness, take a moment to direct your inner stage. Close your eyes and see the version of you you're becoming. Don't just see the events. Feel the emotions. Let the state wash over you as if it's already real. Let the brain file that as familiar. Because what is familiar becomes repeatable. And what is repeatable becomes achievable. Some people keep a journal by their bed, not just for dreams, but for dreams of the future. They write a few sentences each night in the present tense. I live in peace. I'm surrounded by support. Money flows easily, not to trick the brain, but to guide it. These bedtime rituals send cues. They set the tone. And over time, the subconscious begins to expect the future you keep showing it. It begins looking for ways to support that vision, even in dreams. And the dreams themselves can become messages. Not every dream will be profound, of course. Some are simply fragments, noise, the residue of overstimulated days. But others, certain images, symbols, recurring themes, may hold deeper meaning. You dream of rising above cities, and your mind may be asking for perspective. You dream of old homes, and your subconscious may be showing you a belief you've outgrown. These aren't predictions. They're invitations to listen, to reflect, to realign. And perhaps most importantly, to trust that the process of manifesting doesn't end when you stop trying. It continues quietly, beneath thought, beneath control. While you sleep, your mind practices feeling whole. It practices receiving. It rehearses the version of you that you're still becoming. This is the power of surrender. You no longer need to force the change. You're allowing it to unfold, even in the dark. And the body responds too. During deep sleep, the parasympathetic nervous system restores balance. Cortisol levels drop. Muscles repair. Your energy field, so scattered during the day, regathers. You return to your baseline, to your essence. From this restored state, manifesting becomes easier. You stop leaking energy. You stop fighting your own fatigue. Your eyes clear, calmer, closer. And when you wake, something often feels subtly different. A softness where panic used to be. A decision that no longer feels heavy. A problem that seems smaller. You didn't decide anything in your sleep, but you processed it. You metabolized it. Your dream life came closer while you weren't looking. So as we float in this still, deep place, with only the slow pulse of distant waves and the faint sparkle of unseen stars above, consider what state you're falling asleep in each night. What emotional temperature do you carry into that sacred zone? Are you collapsing from stress or easing into trust? Are you rehearsing chaos or embodying peace? There is no shame in whatever answer comes. Only the reminder that tomorrow you can begin again. With one thought, one breath, one whispered scene of the life you want, held gently just before the descent into dreams. Because even while you rest, you are still becoming. The mind remembers. The body listens. The dream continues.